will you tell the listening / viewing audience who you are and what you do?
I am Erin Lowry, author of the now 3-part Broke Millennial series, and I like to call myself a financial translator. I think it's the most accurate description for what I try to do. Personal finance expert also gets, bandied about.
If they get a little chunk of money, like an IRS refund or something, do they save it or do they put it towards their debt?
I feel very strongly that you need some savings. Mm-hmm. So if you're at 0, you need some buffer. Mm-hmm. And I get in some people's minds, it's like, well, if I have debt, I'm at a negative. I mean, all right, technically on paper, but also if something happens tomorrow that you need cash on hand to pay for, it's just going to be more debt if you don't have at least some cash buffer. Mm-hmm. And also having that cash buffer just gives you a little bit of flexibility. Like, hey, I've been at my parents for 6 months. This is now toxic. I need my own apartment. Now I have money that I can put down a deposit on space.
Right.
Things like that. I do think there is just a lot to be said about having at least some level. My baseline advice, 1 month bare minimum living essentials. So whatever your bare living expenses are, and by that I mean just survival bills, rent, food, utilities, medical, any medicine, childcare if you need, transportation, those things, add up that number. That 1 month's worth of that is the bare minimum I would like to see in emergency savings. Obviously, more the better. It depends on your risk tolerance, all the nuanced information here. But I'd like to see you have that before you focus on aggressive debt repayment. Because I just don't think it's worth, hey, I've made all this great headway on my debt and then 2 tires blew out on my car and now that's going to be $600 to replace and that's going to get financed at 24% on my credit card.
So you've talked about investing in one of your books. Someone asked, how can a young poor person invest?
First of all, I would like us to kill the language of save for retirement. It is investing for retirement.
Yes.
That is thing one. If you have access to a 401k, or if you are self-employed or what have you, and you have the ability to open an IRA, you are investing for retirement. You are an investor. You are taking advantage of compound interest and the stock market, as long as the money is not sitting in cash. I don't normally give investing advice, but I will just say, if you're opening up an account, 401k, IRA, you have no idea because you come to a screen that's like, pick your investments. And you're like, I don't know what any of this means, and I don't have anyone in my life I can call. There's something called a target date fund, sometimes called a life cycle fund or an all-in-one fund. That is a way, and it's going to be tied to a year. So if you're, let's say, 30 and you think you're going to retire around 2065, you would pick target date fund 2065. And then over the years, that fund is invested for you, and it's like aggressive and then more conservative, or more moderate and then more conservative as you age. It's a way to make sure when you're unsure of investments to pick that your money is actually invested and not sitting in cash for decades. So that would be my thing one, is to please be investing for retirement. If you have access to an employer matched 401k plan, at least putting in money to get the employer match.
People don't realize that saving for retirement isn't putting money into a savings account. Saving for retirement is investing, even though that seems scary. To me, sometimes my retirement fund investing goes down. Sometimes it goes up. Sometimes it'll be, but like the idea is that it's long term. So, I put in a certain amount of money. Sometimes generally it's more, it gets to be more. So don't freak out. But sometimes I'll look at it and I'll be like, this was this number. No, it's less. Boo. But like the idea is you're hoping that by the time you're older, it will have ended up on top. It's a risk. I don't think people realize that it is investing. So if you are having a 401k or an IRA, whatever that, any sort of fund like that, that's investing.
You're an investor. Yeah. As long as you've picked investments and it's not sitting in a cash account. That is always just like my second PSA on that topic. So that would be my first point, is investing for retirement is the best way to get started. Honestly, the easiest barrier to entry. It's tax advantaged, which means it helps you overall with, maybe getting a bigger tax refund, all that. Now, if you're like, hey, I'm already doing that and I still would like more, but I don't have this huge chunk of change to put into the market. Yeah, you could look at things like micro investing apps. So that's, your Acorns, your Stashes, your Robinhoods. I have mixed feelings in that they still charge a fee. Mm-hmm. Usually it sounds really small, like $1 a month, which is small if you're investing enough money to make it small. If you're only putting $5 a month into this, it's eating up all your returns. So you have to, I like to say, commit to a bare minimum of $25 a month going into them if that's what you're going to use, in order to make sure that the fee is not eating up all of the potential benefit. But also a lot of people are at a point where like $25, that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So that is not money that I can tie up in investing. And I also want to bring up the point that gets raised in Broke Millennial Takes on Investing, that you have to earn the right to be investing in what we call a taxable account. Outside of retirement, you need to hit your other baselines first. It's putting on that financial oxygen mask. You want to make sure that you have an emergency savings fund, that you've paid off consumer debt, that your student loans don't have to be totally paid off, but are in a stable place, and that you feel stable before we add investing outside of retirement accounts.
So your retirement account is one level of investing. And I had that, setting that up was like huge for me. And then now I have my little TD Ameritrade account that I just looked at, that I put $500 in like last year, and now it's up to $716, not to brag. But that's my like little thing that I'm doing like on the side, that I think I wouldn't have been able to do that before setting up my IRA. Terrifying stuff, really scary, and you have to just and I like fully did not understand that it was going to fluctuate. You just have to be like, okay, it's going to fluctuate. Here's the thing. Did that fuck some people in 2008? For sure. It's scary because it's betting. I know people don't like when you say that investing is gambling.
I'll push back in a second. Finish your point.
It's people don't like when I say that, but it feels like it is.
I totally get where the feeling comes from. And there's an element to it where if you look at like a GameStop scenario, that is much more akin to like Vegas betting, because the hedge funds would be the house and the house always wins. But in this one scenario, you were like, screw them, we got them, which occasionally happens in Vegas, right? And I get why people do draw that correlation. The reason that I tend to push back is, first of all, most investing should just be kind of boring. Like, you just consistently put money in every month and you put it into like fairly basic accounts. You're not spending your days and hours, unless you're truly geeking out over this stuff. Don't waste your time trying to like track all these things and figure out what the next best investment is and who's going to spike and are they overvalued, who's undervalued. Like,
mine is just to sit and forget.
And that is truly, for most people, it should just be like index funds or ETFs consistently contributing to it. This is what it is. And the market's going to go up and down. To me, one of my favorite chapters of my second book is all about the history of the market, because I do think it brings you some level of comfort to understand the ups and downs, because what's past is prologue. It's the cycle. It's going to happen again. Like, that's just what we know of the market. And for the folks who are listening who feel very doomsday about it and like, it's all just going to crash and burn, we're going to need to be like living off the land and trading in golden medicine, I hear you. My point, though, in case we don't in our lifetime have a total doomsday scenario play out,
the rev doesn't happen.
Fingers crossed. But you are guaranteeing yourself a personal financial apocalypse if you don't prepare on some level for the future. And I briefly on this want to just talk about generational wealth, because I think for some people the frustration is, I'm barely scraping by myself, but I want to be able to build more for if I have kids or my family or the future. And if I can't even get into the market where people are making this wealth because you're telling me to do all these other things first. Part of it, though, too, is creating a stability for yourself. And part of generational wealth goes beyond just like passing on a big inheritance. It can be putting yourself in a position to pay for your kids' college educations so that they don't have to take out student loans. It could be buying a home that can be passed on or, paid off in full. It doesn't have to be the way that we think about it in terms of the like Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos of the world being able to
Right.
pass on huge fortunes. It can be just giving your kids advantages or privileges that you didn't have.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Stability is also something that is beautiful to be passed down. Yeah. I also, for my little TD Ameritrade account, I went through and I invested in a bunch of airlines when the pandemic happened because they were real low and I knew they were going to come back. And I did a little reading, right? So like, not like a huge amount, but I was like, okay, well, what stocks are doing well? Okay, well, Etsy's doing well, so I'm going to invest in Etsy because I feel like Etsy has the long-term future. Oh, this is a fun story that someone told me. This woman who's an investor, she said that she met with Coca-Cola and she was like, come on, like, or she was like an investment reporter. And she was like, give me something. And the guy was like, well, I think we're going to maybe do alcoholic Topo Chico. And she was like, oh, that's cool. But she didn't really care about Topo Chico. She was like, fine. So she tweets like alcoholic Topo Chico coming soon. The stock for Coca-Cola through the goddamn roof because she was like that. I did not understand the power of Topo Chico. Like that people would be like, oh, you know? So I think like I think like maybe keeping an eye on like, if I had been keeping an eye a little bit on like, what's these things that I like, right? Like if I'm like a huge fan of Topo Chico, I'm like, what kind of stuff is going on, or like that's the bare minimum or whatever. But also it's funny because I said to my partner, like I was telling the story, and when I got to just the part about the guy saying there was going to be alcoholic Topo Chico, my partner was like, what? So excited.
If you want to do some individual stock picking or some playing, so whether it is the tried companies like a Coca-Cola, it's been a mainstay for years and years and years, or whether it's cryptocurrency and something that's currently considered an untested asset class, it is fine to take a portion of your money. But I would also consider, unless again you're like geeking out hardcore and this is going to be your life, 5%, like a small amount that if it were to get totally lost, it's not going to devastate your overall situation, which is also just a key part of investing. You diversify, you have more than one thing. And it is like, I have done similar things where I've been playing around too with like, hey, once we reopen and people can do things like go to ticketed events, who are the guys that hold access to ticketed events? What are their stocks looking like right now? I totally hear you. Like there's just levels of that kind of makes it fun, makes it a bit more gamified. And for some people, that's also what gets them to buy in, which is great. I want more people investing.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you dropping by to help me promote Bad with Money, the podcast, which will return March 31st. Where can people find stuff about you and your stuff?
Most active on Instagram. So that's at Broke Millennial Blog. Every Wednesday I do an Ask Me Anything. So if you have a pressing question, please come ask or like slide into my DMs. That's fine. My website's brokemillennial.com. All 3 of the books are available wherever books are sold.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Also, there's an episode of Bad with Money with Erin on it, so you should look and find that too.